Now, a new witness will take the stand this morning in the Senzo Meyiwa murder trial. Just last week, Tumelo Madlala left the witness box in tears after enduring 3 weeks in the witness box. Madlala insisted that accused number 2, Bongani Ntanzi, is one of the alleged intruders. Now, he's also denied protecting anyone in the house. So let's get more from our senior reporter, Silindelo Masikane, joining us this morning to give us the very latest. And from where you stand, Slee, anything we can expect this morning from court?
Well, of course, Tumelo, it's a big day in the North Gauteng High Court where the state will now introduce their 4th witness to take to the stand. At this point, it's still unclear as to who we are expecting. But to just unpack the trial so far and what we've heard from Tumelo Madlala, who you said left the witness box in tears. I am joined by legal expert, Mr. Marius Tutoy. Thank you so much for your time this morning. Maybe let's unpack Tumelo Madlala, the state's 3rd witness, one of those who was in the house, faced quite a grilling, I must say, from the defense in terms of poking holes in his story, saying that there were inconsistencies between his evidence in chief as well as statements that he made to police. In fact, the defense have labeled him as unreliable, as evasive, even questioning his character. Perhaps your assessment of Tumelo Madlala's time in the witness box?
Slee, I think first and foremost we must say that the court will look at the totality of all the evidence, and the court will never look at a witness and compartmentalize that witness. But having said that, when you look at a witness, you look at differences between his written statement and his oral evidence. You look at differences between his testimony and that of other witnesses. You can attack the credibility of a witness, but if you attack the credibility of a witness, then you must know that the state can also attack the credibility of the accused character when they testify. So having a look at all of that, the fact that there were allegations that he was intoxicated and that affected his credibility, when looked in totality, the court will take all these things into consideration, and it will definitely have an impact on how the court views his identification, because at the end of the day, the only thing he can really testify about, which is most importantly, is about how the murder and robbery took place, but of course the so-called doc identification. And the doc identification itself doesn't carry much weight because it didn't actually coincide with the ID parade. So seen in totality, his evidence might not be the high water mark that the state was looking for.
Perhaps then how much weight could the court then place on his particular evidence?
Well, you know, one would hope that the state has other witnesses that they would be relying on, because when you call a witness and all this witness really says is, I identify one of the accused as being present there, but I never stood in an ID parade, I never attended an ID parade. And just for the listeners, the reason why you have an ID parade is to show that this witness is consistent, that his identification is truthful, that he's not making a mistake, because it's not a question of him lying. He could be making an honest mistake in his identification. He could say that it's this accused, whereas the person that was there was similarly dressed or maybe had similar features. So the ID parade, where you put up one accused against 8 or 9 or 10 people, and then the complainant comes in and he must pick a person from an ID parade, has a hallmark of truth to it if that person is correctly identified within a reasonable time and the witness is sure of himself. Having said that, we never had that. So the weight that you attach to the doc identification is very little. In fact, our courts have gone so far as to say that it has the same weight as a leading question. So a leading question is a question that insinuates the answer before you even have to give the answer. So I don't think much weight will be attached to it.
Perhaps then your speculation being quite rife in terms of who we can expect the state to call today. Perhaps your thinking around who would the state want to call next? Could it be somebody else to corroborate Madlala's story? Could we maybe see the state throwing in an expert perhaps?
Yeah, it's really difficult to guesstimate what the state will do, Slee. Suffice to say that the prosecutor would not just want to call witnesses for the sake of calling them. The prosecutor has a very specific design to the way he's trying to prosecute this matter. You usually want to start well, you want to end well, and in the middle you would want to put in your ballistic and expert evidence so that at the end of the day, the court is left with a fresh idea of, listen, this witness identified this person, and the evidence was in totality quite strong. So what the state will call, I would not be surprised if they don't call somebody else that was in the house perhaps. Having said that, I don't see them ever calling Kelly Khumalo because she's implicated. But nothing prevents the state from calling her. It's just that it might cause more difficulties for the state than helping them. But having said that, one can only expect that the state will call a witness that will hopefully take the matter further.